very small, Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President, all delegates. We are all very pleased to be here to talk about a very unpleasant subject, religious intolerance and sectarian violence. And we have 3 people here to talk, 2 and me. The first one to talk will be Mrs. Krista Umbjarv. Krista Umbjarv, she is an Estonian citizen. She has been a member of the Theosophical Society since 2005. This beautiful young lady. And she has worked in the lodge in Tallinn, and also she has dealt with library in TS Estonia. But just now, she is currently living in Paris, serving as secretary of the European Federation. Let's see what Mrs. Krista has to tell us about religious intolerance and sectarian violence.
Dear friends, a few years ago, I had occasion to meet with a person who was representing one of the main world religions at an inter-religious conference. By that time, when I was speaking with him, he had been participating in these conferences for a few years. At a certain point, when he had seen that participants were just repeating the same things all over again, and that everything was discussed on a very superficial level, he suggested that maybe there are better ways to spend one's time. Maybe it sounds a bit strong, but he said that each one had tried to tell others that his religion was the best one. So if people with knowledge and some experience act in this way, when they are invited to represent their religion at such events, then it makes one think. At least it made me think. From where and why does such an attitude arise? Of course, it is very good and natural that we follow a path that suits us best and is in harmony with our tendencies. Yet, there is a difficulty that comes from the fact that if we follow a path that we believe to be best for us, there is a tendency to think that it is not only best for us, but that it is also best above all other paths. Being different or seeing things differently is not a problem. The problem is identification. If we observe life closely, we can see that although the self has the capacity to identify itself with everything, there are nevertheless some aspects with which we are more identified. Interestingly, the most evident ones on the physical level are the distinctions mentioned in the first object of the TS. Or maybe we could say that this is the reason why these distinctions are mentioned at the first place. So we could say that there exists, certainly in various degrees, identification with one's race, creed, sex, caste and color. When we are among those who are of our race, culture, creed, and so on, it is more difficult to see the process of identification. It becomes more apparent when we are seemingly being confronted by somebody who is different. And I say seemingly confronted because in fact we are not confronted, but psychologically it seems that way because we identify with our creed, race, etc. It is as if our religion, culture, nationality, and so on become extensions of ourselves. When somebody or something, be it a person, an object, even an idea, harms the self's notion of permanence, the negative qualities of the person or the object are exaggerated. For instance, if we meet somebody and this somebody is unpleasant to us, we only see the negative aspect. We don't see that this person also has good qualities. So we have the tendency to see only one side. It is the same with attachment. When we are attached to somebody, we have the tendency to exaggerate the positive aspects, positive qualities of that person. So when we say that the qualities are exaggerated, and when we meet with somebody, then the first, usually unconscious and subtle reaction is fear. Usually we are not aware of it. Then aversion will follow, meaning we will, as we believe ourselves to be something permanent and something separate, the natural reaction of self-defense is a type of aversion, and then after this, a rejection will follow. We can observe that when there is a strong grasping of the self, things around are perceived as personal threat. Somebody says something not so nice about our nationality, culture, religion, or maybe even theosophical society, and we are likely to react. Maybe not verbally, but psychologically on a subtle level. It is not often easy to distinguish the intention behind actions or words. From the outside, actions or words arising from a feeling of personal threat or a genuine sense of responsibility might seem the same. The difference in intention is often not easy to distinguish because in both cases we can sense that there is a strong emotional engagement. For instance, somebody might say something not so nice about the theosophical society, and we might decide that the response is needed if we are members. Do we respond because of a deep sense of responsibility as a brave declaration of principles and be personally detached about it? Or do we respond because we are so identified with the organization that we feel personally insulted and harmed? Now, one might wonder why I talk about all this. It might sound, at best, some nice theory. How does it answer the problem? Because there should be something practical that we could do. And yet it is also practical. Because as long as we consider our path, view, or I can even say interpretation of theosophy, and so on, the list is very long, better than others, as long as we relate to those different from ourselves with suspicion and rejection, We are part of the problem. We don't have to harm the other physically. This is just an extreme and outer manifestation of the same inner attitude. As long as these distinctions mentioned in the first object of the test persist in us, we are also upholding the whole process of intolerance and violence. Krishnamurti described the same thing from the standpoint of selfishness. He said that we are either selfish or unselfish. Even those who are less selfish are still selfish. And this takes us to compassion. Can there be true compassion when there is still even a bit of selfishness? Or when even-handedness or equanimity is lacking? Not equanimity in the sense of acting the same towards everyone, but equanimity, what HPB described in her meditation diagram as being different in external activity to each, because in each the capacity alters, mentally the same to all. Now, if compassion is based on friendship, kindness and affection, its nature cannot be stable, nor far-reaching. Friendship and affection are extremely important. Everybody knows it. And yet I believe that most of us, if not everybody, have had the experience that friends have one day ceased to be friends, and people towards whom we might not have had sympathy have in time turned out to be good and reliable friends. So how to overcome this distinction between friends and people whom we don't appreciate very much? So in Theosophy we talk about oneness and unity a lot. Everybody know about it, everybody talk about it. We say that the inner nature of each and everyone is divine. That there is no distinction between ourselves and others because we are all part of the Spirit. And yet there is another kind of oneness. A kind that is simpler to accept and realize in daily life. It is the fact that we are sharing the same human experience, the same sorrow, anxiety, fear, attachment, and so on. No matter what the religion, no matter what the nationality, color or sex, the experience at its foundation is same for everybody. As Shantideva, who has been quoted here already several times, said, although living beings wish to be free from suffering, they run straight toward the causes of suffering. And although they wish for happiness, out of ignorance, they destroy it like a foe. It is likely that all of you know that in November, Paris, where I live, was hit by several attacks. I remember watching the news directly with my friends, when with every hour the scale of terror became more and more evident. What followed, I must say again, was a public debate where politics, religion, and so on were discussed in great detail. Many experts delivered their opinion about the situation and described what should be done to avoid such atrocities to happening again. Among them was a lady who runs an association that deals with radicalized youngsters. She was asked, what is the method used to bring these young people back to society? The lady noted that her organization had tried various methods, but the only truly effective way to help these young people was to try to give them back the sense that others are human beings. Apparently, all religious discussions or using reason had proved useless, because these young people thought that they know better, that they have the purest understanding, and that they are superior to others. So it made no difference what they were told. She said that radicalization and violence take place because there is dehumanization of others, so that others become only senseless objects. Reversing the process means the opposite. Evoking the good memories of childhood, bringing back the warm feeling of family ties, and showing that others have feelings, that they suffer, showing that they are basically the same, despite distinctions of religion, culture, and so on. I wish to finish with something that I remember ever since reading the Maha Chohan's letter for the first time. He said, "To be true, religion and philosophy must offer the solution of every problem." Thank you.
I'd like to thank Miss Krista Umbjarv for her words, showing us that the problem is not difference, but the attachment to differences, and also these feelings of separateness that we live, and we must look for a solution. That's what the Mahashohan tells us. Thank you very much for your words. And now I'd like to invite Mr. Nagan Gowder. Mr. Nagan Gowder. He's from Karnataka. He was born in a small village called Mundabali. His post-graduation in the Karnataka University, and he's working as an associate professor in the Department of English Language, and he has been a member of the Theosophical Society for 16 years, and now he's serving as secretary of the Kuntur Theosophical Lodge in Karnataka. Let's see what Mr. Nagan has to tell us.
Dear brothers and sisters, we have gathered here to discuss a very important and highly relevant subject: religious intolerance and sectarian violence, which has shaken the whole world in recent times. Not only India, but the whole world has been engulfed by religious intolerance and sectarian violence. Man has been turned as a beast and ready to kill his own brothers and sisters mercilessly. Rapes, murders, tortures, and destruction are the key words of the press and the electronic media. Man is living in fear and frustration. Look at the example, how Mahatma Gandhi ji was killed. Rajiv Gandhi was killed, and Mrs. Indira Gandhi was killed, and Abraham Lincoln, and American Gandhi Martin Luther King, and a number of progressive thinkers were killed mercilessly. We don't know where and when a human bomb explodes. Uncertainty looms everywhere. We are living in such a frightening situation. Unfortunately, religious fanaticism is spreading like wildfire. All religious sects are waging war against one another. Farmers commit suicide, women are raped, poor are exploited, terrorists kill people, and communal clashes do happen. Hindus against Muslims, and Muslims against Christians, Christians against some other religion, and Shias against Sunnis, Catholics against Protestants. One class of people, one creed of people fight against another creed, another class, and another sect then. Peace, prosperity, right understanding, and goodwill among people have become distant dream. You may call it Muslim terrorism, Hindu fundamentalism, or white racism. All these are ugly faces of humanity. It is a pity religion is linked with intolerance and terrorism. Terrorists wear religious masks to meet their goals. But we all know that no religion preaches intolerance, violence, and bloodshed. All religions try to bind the people harmoniously. They create the awareness of oneness. We are all the sons and daughters of the same Father, the same Spirit. We are the divine sparks. So love and goodwill should prevail in this world, not intolerance and violence. When the question has been asked, who is the real Christian? The answer was Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is the only real Christian. And all other Christians are merely blind followers of Jesus Christ. Most of us have not understood the real spirit of the religion. We have twisted it according to our purpose. When Jesus Christ was on the cross, bleeding, he prayed God, "Oh God, please forgive them. They are innocent. They don't know what they are doing." Such kind of love and compassion Jesus Christ nursed in his heart. Do we have such kind of love and compassion towards our enemies? Ask this question to yourself. If we had such kind of love and compassion, there would have no such kind of violence, wars, and other ill wills in the society. We would have excused everything, as a mother excuses all the faults of the child. But we don't have such kind of a big heart. And that's why the world has been so intolerant and violent. We have tried number of governments, number of systems, and number of other ideologies. But all established governments, ideologies, and systems have failed to bring peace and harmony in this world. UNO, which was established to stop war and enhance cooperation and goodwill among nations, is utterly failed. After the First World War, the Second World War, number of many more wars have been fought. But UNO became the mute spectator. Look at the present nations: Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Palestine. Number of other countries have become just war fields. Imagine how people are living there. What about their food, education, and health? Who cares for such kind of tormenting hearts? So, the time has come for theosophical society. And we have to shoulder more responsibility. And our first principle, universal brotherhood, has to be taught to one and all. Not only teaching, but we should see that it should be practiced in our daily life. If we don't practice it, if we go on just preaching, nothing will come out of it. So that it's our duty to see that universal brotherhood should be practiced by one and all. And we have learned that the external world is the projection of our own mind, which is violent and chaotic. So if you want to change in the society, we have to change the world. First of all, there should be a dynamic change in your own psyche. Unless the individual changes, no society changes. No world can change. So that change should start within yourself, from each and every individual. Unless our mind becomes calm, quiet, whole and universal, no real change happens. So the practice of universal brotherhood is the only solution for all the maladies of the world. Universal brotherhood broadens our vision and our consciousness becomes universal. In such a state of love, we do understand inherent oneness among all living beings. These caste, creed, religion, nationality are all man-made and are artificial. Mere adherence to caste, creed and religion will divide us, and these are the great barriers in bringing forth a harmonious world. So, we should go beyond all these barriers and find the truth that we are the brothers and the sisters. We are the different forms of the same consciousness. This self-knowledge is the only way to bring back peace and harmony and sanity in this world. And how to attain this self-knowledge? And the easiest and the best way is the meditation. In that meditative state of mind, your individual ego, your individual consciousness merges with the cosmic consciousness, where there is no duality, no hatredness, no antagonism, no ill wills. So Jiddu Krishnamurti used to say that life should be a meditation. And in that meditative state of mind, equanimity is possible. The bliss that you experience should be shared by one and all. If every man and woman live that meditative life, the whole world experiences the happiest moments. It would be a wonderful world. And it is our duty to convert this drab materialistic world into a blissful spiritual world. Brothers and sisters, we the Theosophists have to take the lead in converting this money-minded, power-hungry world into a blissful heavenly abode. For that, we have to strive hard. And if we all work hard with a definite goal, the world will change. And there is no need to be pessimistic. Let us be optimistic and do our duty. And it's our duty to do well to the world. Let us do it now. With these things, I would like to conclude. And the last, our ancient scripts will say, Sarve jano sukhino bhavantu, Sarve santu niramaya, Sarve badhrani pashyantu, Na kaschit dukh bhag bhavet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Let us practice it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nagan Gowder, for your brilliant words, showing us how we Theosophists have the solution for the world's problem with the universal brotherhood, and also showing how meditation helps us to live this universal brotherhood, and how peaceful the world would be if we could all live in a state of meditation. Thank you very much for your kind words. And just now, I have to introduce myself. My name is Isis Resende. In English, they say Isis. But Isis has taken her veil, and I have not taken mine yet. So I'm Isis. I have been a Theosophist for 3 generations, vegetarian for 3 generations. I have 47 years membership. I have been hanging around for quite a while. Just now, I'm the president of the Inter-American Federation, and I speak Portuguese, Spanish, and English, and hope to contribute to carry the torch of theosophy to the world. That's how I present myself. Then I go there and start my talk. So, we are in a seminar about compassion and universal responsibility. How to fit religious intolerance and sectarian violence in this umbrella of compassion and universal brotherhood. How can we put both things together? We live in a very violent world with a lot of religious intolerance. How can we practice compassion and universal responsibility? Today, terrorism is a big problem, and media treats the Arabs like they are evil. They should be eliminated. They should be destroyed. But the Mahatmas say that there is no evil, especially in letter number 88 from the chronological existence. They say that there is no evil per se, but good, the absence of good, exists only for him who is made its victim. So, it doesn't exist evil. How is that possible? Let's think a little bit about that. When we have a catastrophe, when we have an earthquake, when we have a flood like you had here in Madras, who should we destroy? Who should we blame? Nature? God? How can you understand this? Blavatsky in the Key to Theosophy has a very good example. She says that if you take a branch or a bough and you take it out of its normal position, the branch will tend to go again to the original position. And if it happens that it breaks your arm, is it the fault of the branch? Or it is the fault of your lack of knowledge of the laws of nature that brought you suffering? Well, she doesn't say exactly these words, but this is the general idea. So, we are faced with laws, involuntary laws, but they affect us. And they say that if our behavior is harmonic to these laws, we are affected in a positive manner. If we are against the laws, they will hit us. So, this brings us to the concept of God. The Mahatmas say that this word God is a misnomer. But they say that if we want to use it, okay. They say, if people are willing to accept and to regard God as our one life, immutable and unconscious in its eternity, they may do so. And thus keep one more enormous misnomer. Because there is no him, but all. And this universal essence, depending on the degree of differentiation and the various correlations. The light side of it will produce life, health, bliss, divine peace. And the dark side of it will bring death, disease, sorrow, strife. So, these laws of nature act impersonally, but the results will affect us in a positive or negative manner. The Mahatmas also in letter number 88 say that evil proceeds only from human intelligence, who dissociates himself from nature. So humanity alone is the true source of evil. Well, so harmony brings good. Disharmony brings evil effects. But there is karma. And karma brings back to you everything you did, no matter if it is good or bad. And she says, hence karma gives back to every man the actual consequences of his own action, without any regard to the moral character. But since he receives his due for all, it's obvious that depending on his action in harmony with nature, he will receive good results. And depending on his action against nature, he will be hit by it. So, in a manner, we can say nature has no evil, no good. But there is evil and good for us, if we act according to nature or if we act against it. So, evil is an infraction of the laws of harmony governing the universe, and the penalty thereof must fall upon the violator of that law himself. So, we should, that Blavatsky says in the Key to Theosophy, we should work our own salvation. Whatever a man sow, that shall he also reap. And this was said long before in the Puranas. And Christ said, sin no more, lest a worse thing come upon thee. So, sin is the translation of the Greek word amartya. That means missing the target. If you have no ability, if you miss the target, what should you do? Try again, try again, try again, try again, until you are able to perform your acts perfectly. The voice of the silence tells us that through our 5 senses and the mind, we perceive ourselves different from others. And this is called the great heresy of separateness. All problems, all evil, all suffering come from this separateness, from this great heresy. Religious intolerance and sectarian violence are blameful exaggerations of this separateness. They are ignorance, lack of wisdom. But this feeling of this perception of being separate from others is the source of all evil, all problems, everything bad we experience. We feel sad, we feel hurt, we feel lonely. We only feel these things because we think we are separate from the one life. But really, we are sparks of this one life in our process of evolution. So, what should we do? We should fight against the sin and not the sinner. Because the sinner is a victim of his own ignorance. Oh, that means that we should cross our arms and watch the brutal things that are happening in the world today? Aphorism 135 of the Voice of the Silence says, inaction in a deed of mercy becomes an action in a deadly sin. So, it's not really watch and have pity of the sinner. It's fight against the sin. And realize that the problem is the same. All of us feel separate from the one life. And we should overcome this. We should work out our own salvation. And what should we do with terrorists? They should go to prison. They should suffer the consequences of their acts as any other killer. But not being killed. Because if they are killed, they come back with the same tendencies and they don't remember what they did in the past. So, can you get it for me, please? If you get the consequence of your act just after, it's easy for you to put together cause and effect and realize the bad thing you did and the bad result that came because of your action. And if you kill them, you are preventing them of this awareness. And they are born more violent than before. So, killing is no solution. But if you look for solution, there is a good book of the Dalai Lama. He says, the book says, is called How to Deal with Anger. It's a very good book. And he has some examples that we can think that they are exaggerations. But if we think they are very good examples. There is one that I will tell you. He says, if someone takes a piece of wood and hits you, will you be angry? Will you be angry with the piece of wood or with the person? Say, of course I will be angry with the person. How am I going to be angry with the piece of wood? He said, however, the person that hits you with the piece of wood is an instrument of his anger. The problem is the disturbing emotions. Are we completely free from them? Look at the incident in Paris. An awful thing. Very bad. But Western governments killed 1,500 people in Syria. Are they also terrorists? These people, they are French, they are Belgian, but they look Arabs. They live in the outskirts of Paris and Brussels, discriminated by racism and all other stuff. Well, things to ponder. We should do something. We should overcome these disturbing emotions. And meditation is a wonderful means to it. The Dalai Lama says, we cannot overcome anger or hatred simply by suppressing them, pretending they don't exist. We need actively cultivate the antidotes to hatred, patience and tolerance. When we are engaged in the practice of patience and tolerance, in reality, what is happening is that you are engaged in the combat with hatred and anger. And he also says that this anger and hatred, they come because we feel dissatisfaction and discontent. Blavatsky, in her Esoteric Instructions number 3, tells us, it is therefore the task of the lower manas, the thinking personality, if it would blend itself with its God, the divine ego, to dissipate and paralyze the tanmatras or properties of the material form. It's our task to overcome these disturbing emotions. Vivekachudamani, in aphorism 119 and 336, tells us that sattva, even mixed with tamas and rajas, equilibrium is the way to overcome all this. My last paper is there. Sorry. There are several indications, several maps, but we must really live the experience, not only talking about them. This seminar about compassion and universal responsibility. The voice of the silence talks about dana, the first paramita, charity, love immortal, self-sacrifice. But with self-sacrifice, sometimes we are still involved in disturbing emotions. So we must go a step ahead to Shila, equilibrium, the key of harmony in word and act, the key that counterbalance the cause and the effect, and leave no further room for karmic action. So, with this equilibrium, we can rise ourselves to higher levels and then come back again to help others. Then rise ourselves to higher level, then come back again. The round table tells us, ascended he to the glory of God, descended he to the service of the king. Blavatsky, talking about the emerald tablet, says, ascend with greatest sagacity from earth to heaven, and descend again to earth, and unite together the power of things inferior and superiors. Thus, you will possess the light of the whole world, and all obscurity will fly away from you. To the glory of God and to the service of the King. Thank you very much. Now, I'm not going to resume what I said. Thank you very much.